Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Roski Mascani. I'm here with Brother Iration, and I have a very special guest on the line. I got Miss J Dub. She's an educator. She teaches high school math, and I had the pleasure of working with her and still work with her. And what I noticed was she was a new teacher at the time, a few years ago, and she came in immediately having a grand control over her students as far as the classroom management, which a lot of new teachers struggle with classroom management. And she was able to command her class and also be effective in her teaching methodologies. So she's an excellent educator. And from being in conversations with her, she's an excellent person. And she's going to tell us more about herself. Miss J. Dub, tell us about yourself, please.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'm a high school teacher. I do a bunch of other things too, and some of it being a wellness guide and some nonprofit work and a reader, a writer, a friend. And so, yeah, I met Roski Asani about 4 years ago. I think this is my fourth year teaching at our school, fourth or fifth year. And yeah, I'm super excited for this interview.
Okay, well, yes. What I wanted to start off asking you about is we were talking maybe a year ago, and you said you were interested in politics. And so tell me, what office were you gonna run for? Because I know you said you had mentioned that you wanted to run for some office. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I was pretty open into running for office at the time because I thought that was the most effective way to create the changes that I wanted to see. Um, and I'll share a little bit about my processing through that, but I wanted to run for a local office, whether it be within the city or within the school district, because I saw how powerful local change is in the grand scheme of issues that I've been exploring in regards to equity and racial equity and um, economic equity. And so, yeah, I was hoping, I never really thought of myself as someone to run for office until I have a lot of mentors in my life, and they encouraged me to and shared that, politicians shouldn't be this like archetype of, oh, I went to public policy and then I got my master's or I got an internship and now I'm running for office, but it should be frontline workers and folks of color who are running for office. I was a little weary just because I'm not from the city that I was going to run for, and that was a huge thinking point for me. But at the end of the day, like, if an elected official really hears out the community and makes those decisions based on their values, I think that's what a part of what counts. I think it is extremely powerful when an elected official does all that and is from the community. But yeah, those were just some thoughts that I was thinking, and especially as an Asian American, where you don't see a lot of elected officials, I thought that maybe I just never wanted to because I never seen someone like me. But those were all valid points. But after a lot of self-reflection, I I see my skills being used better in different spaces of political change. I still have like the fervent passion to see changes within our systems and structures, but not in the way that an elected official would create those changes. And so it was a great experience and a thinking exercise, and I gained a lot of skills from like the preparation that I got from mentors, and but it's also motivated me to push our students to run for office within, their city. And so everything works out for a reason, and yeah, that was just a little bit about the journey.
Okay, I thought that was interesting that you mentioned, being from, it's good that a person comes from the community. And in your case, I could safely say that you're not from the community, but I think that you do the community well because I see the work that you do inside of our schools. And and we need more passionate teachers to, reach out to our students and groom them and do the things that's really necessary for them to be productive people. And I see that in you, and you would have got my vote because
Thank you.
I was able to be involved with you on the level of education. So yes, I think you would have did real well, but I support whatever you do because I know you're genuine in what you're doing. So thanks a lot for that. Now, you had mentioned race, and the platform that we provide deals with race because we're in a racial system. And so I want to ask you this. According to Neely Fuller, there is three categories of people. You have non-white, you have white, and then you have white supremacists. So what are your thoughts about that?
Non-white, white, and white supremacists. So I agree, and then there's points where I disagree. I was really fascinated with like racial identity in my undergraduate, and I first stepped in with literature because I love poetry and I love to do spoken word, and it was a way for me to express who I was as an Asian American, Korean American. And once I delved into that, I stumbled upon Asian American studies and really enjoyed learning about myself and who I am in America. So those three categories I feel are a good start, and it does make me think two things. It makes me think about both like just the pan identity of people of color, and then it also makes me think of our more individual like experience that are unique to our ethnic and cultural identities. And so I know there was like a really powerful reading I read in undergrad by Omi and Why Not, and they talk about racial formation and how it is like socially constructed within, America. And so when I hear those three categories, I do see like, okay, our social constructs are basically revolve around white supremacy. And if you're not white, then you're not white. If you're not white, you're not white. And if you're white, then if you're like not a white supremacist and you're this middle ground, then like, okay, let's just call you white. Like I feel like that's the rationale behind it, and I do like feel for that, but I'm just like the individual experience, not even the individual, but the experience of certain racial ethnic groups are so unique and specific in America because if someone looks at you and I mean, we even seen it in COVID, like, we saw different forms of racism, like whether you're Asian and you're getting targeted, whether you're Black and you live in, there was a lot of, and you live in a community that's just higher, you're more at risk of the certain factors that expose you to COVID, or whether you're Latinx, and again, just the same, a lot of the same like socioeconomic like conditions can be reflected in there. And so he's like, I don't want to push back on him since he's so like, he's such a like a pillar in this sort of thinking, but I just feel like it just doesn't capture the nuance that we all experience as different races, you know. But I appreciate that because it brings solidarity.
Now I'm an avid listener of Neely Fuller's because I can kind of identify with what he's talking about because of the logic behind it. So he from my point of view, he expresses his thought process dealing with logic, and he makes it more, he sees it from a global perspective versus
right
a certain territory. So then he makes it broad like that because I think it's more simple to understand his approach. So I understand what you're saying because you're kind of breaking it down to subgroups almost.
Right.
And I understand that. But, you know, I just wanted to see how you felt about that, and I could see the mental nuances that you have when it comes to constructing your thoughts. And it's wonderful. You're highly intelligent. I can, you know, you're articulate. I can say that. So I understand where you're coming from, and I understand, you know, his scope and what he's trying to, you know, confer. So, hey, it's wonderful. Go ahead. Yeah.
But when you started talking, I'm like, I do agree with him, though. You know, like, I mean, I agree with that statement and the impact of that statement. So I would never like negate it and be like, that is untrue, you know, because what that statement does is it aims to dismantle white supremacy, because it's either you're a white supremacist, which means you want Eurocentrism, hegemony, like colonization, all the power forms that come from white supremacy, like that's what you represent, or you're white, and I don't know him well enough to know how he defines white, or you're not white, you know.
Well, he's saying, let me explain that.
Yeah.
He's saying that if you are white, you are a suspected white supremacist because you have that privilege. But he's not saying that because he don't have he said he can't identify a person as a white supremacist. So basically, you know, you have to see it for yourself. And then he said only white supremacists can identify another white supremacist, because you have some that are alt-right white supremacists, which is the people that are overt, and they're gonna straight up tell you. And if you look at your president, he's pretty overt, you know, and you know who I'm talking about. So and then also look at the results. See the results. You could say that somebody's a white supremacist because of the laws they have enacted to show that they're white supremacists.
Right.
So in the results you'll see what's going on. But I enjoy your answer, definitely, because that's awesome. You are sharp to me. Okay, so let me go to the next question here. Now, there's plenty of people protesting, have been protesting. It's still a fire lit under some communities that's still protesting, but it was almost globally, if you ask me. So what is your views of people that protest in general? What are your views about them, people that protest?
I believe it is necessary because we lived in, I don't know, I hate to go to like
Just speak. Go ahead and
yeah,
speak.
you know what? Like evil people, yeah, people will allow their crudest desires to get the best of their reason, and at the end of the day, like we live in a fallen world and people want power and there's so much compromises that are made, and there's always going to be that need for balancing out. And what protests do is they they stir up the pot, and sometimes you just need that pot to be stirred, especially with America. Like that analogy is like so fitting because like we're a melting pot and you need to stir the melting pot. Like you can't just let it sit there. And even when we look at history, when there is no, well, even when we look at history, we see civilizations and people who want order and order based on power. And that's not a democrat. Even in a democracy, like there's faults to that within the system, but that's truly not a democratic process where people and individuals feel the basic like respect that they need to just experience life. And so yeah, I think we've learned a lot as a nation with post COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement and all, the publicity that came from what was already going on in the Black community as well as the brown community, but was particularly highlighted with a lot of the captures of or the, again, just like the social media outburst on a lot of the police killings. And I think it's been very, like, I can't speak on behalf of anybody, but it's been a wake up call. There's been a lot of like talk about protests and what they can look like, and we've seen people come and just be angry for the sake of being angry. We've seen what organizing could look like and what impactful organizing looks like. I think we've seen all the spectrums in the matter of these few months, from revolt to like actually going out in righteous anger and using your self-control to, sharpen our communication with each other and with the systems. And yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, you can't control people. And so I think it's necessary because everybody has a will. And, I myself, like, went to a few protests and even in the past as well. And I'm, even when it comes to the school district, I do feel that, like, when LAUSD went on strike, I thought that was really powerful for the nation to see. And I think it's also not just about making those political changes, which is so important. Like, okay, let's move the budget and get few million out of the police department and put it more into like preventative programs. Like the systemic changes are very, very, very important and they need to be focused. But I think the movement itself brings so much hope and healing to a lot of communities that just lived under the impression that white supremacy in these systems is normal and it's what we're supposed to just, it's the status quo,
Yeah. Hello?
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, I would say that some things are therapeutic. I can kind of relate protest to therapy because you have all of this anger inside, and you have this feeling of being mistreated. I would say it's another form of therapy, and also, yes, bringing awareness to a system that, I'm not taking this no more, and it's a form of protest that's I necessarily don't express my protest that way. I show it in other ways, but I can't be mad at the people for standing up at all. So thanks a lot for that. And here's the next question. What do you think of the pandemic or the plandemic, COVID-19 coronavirus?
Well, I have my most paranoid side that gets into the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. But I just don't have any facts checks on that, so I don't feel very comfortable sharing too much of those ideas. But
share them.
well, I feel there's one side where I just feel that this, at least in America, it could be two things, or it's kind of both, but I don't know to what extent it is of one of the ends that I do notice. So it's like a twofold effect. And then there's this like hyper conspiracy side of me that wants to venture into one of the folds. But to be honest, I just don't have enough time and like memory to just like read through things. But I do have like a looming hunch. So the first is like America's dysfunctional. We've already known that in the public service department. So even though our taxes go to funding things like our local, healthcare provision or schools, it's those areas that our tax dollar goes to are the least organized. Ironically, what we do spend dollar to dollar, what we make, and goes into capitalism and companies, which again, I'm not against the free market, but I think hyper-capitalism, I like to use the term, is very dangerous. And when we put our money into these corporations, they're functioning very well and high proficiency, and they're global, and it's a phenomenon how some of our tech companies have taken over the world. And so we have that as like an ecosystem that I just sit in entering into COVID. And in COVID, we see our public structures, like we just see the evils of it. We see the corruption, and we also have this big empathy where we're like, oh my goodness, this is what it has been. This is why my learning has always sucked. This is why healthcare was so hard to get. This is why, so on and so forth. Like we had these like revelations that like, oh, we weren't alone when it came to, it's really hard to find when you have to get a root canal, you have anxiety more because it's how am I going to get a dentist versus the actual pain that you're experiencing and how much money it is going to be. And we all face that, even if we weren't a part of it, because of social media, we were able to see what is actually going on in our public service departments. And then we're on the other end and seeing other countries like doing it very well. So that's another element. And then, so that's one fold of it where I'm just like, okay, we knew this. I'm glad it's out. We have to really direct our attention to restoring and healing our public institutions as well as the nonprofit organizations that, mitigate the impact of the broken and failed public systems. And then we have the part of corporate that's kind of where my suspicion lies in how they're navigating these issues. And I don't think anyone has full control. I don't think that's not where my conspiracy, like if I were to actually research the conspiracies, I don't think there's one person or a group of people who can actually control everything, because life should be a game, and like it's not fair, but even when the odds are against you, you still have a small probability to win. And so that's kind
Okay.
of
Let me jump in there.
yeah.
Okay, so now you're saying that it's not a person or a few people. So if it's not a person or a few people, can we say that there's a system in place that people follow and use the tenets of that system to control
For
and
sure.
to manipulate? Because I'm looking at how things have been, and if you are able to tap into the system, and you are a particular of a particular race, I think you can use the formula to manipulate, to control, to deceive, and all of that in your favor. And we also can look at, like you were saying, the big tech companies. You can look at the leaders of the big tech companies who's able to gain all of this wealth and then spread that wealth to have a certain agenda so they can manipulate and control. So it's okay, so I hope you remember your thought, but I just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you did, because it did focus. Like that's kind of, it helped me focus like the conversation. And yeah, like I feel that multi-billionaires they have the most leverage in the system, of course, because that's how you win since the beginning of time. That's how we place value on worth, and and it's just how it is with humans. When you have more money or more success, it's seemingly a better life. It's the easy bait. And right, so our systems they're manipulated by this very high selective group that happens to also be very like reflected very of white supremacy, like on top of that. So it's like a double edged. So we've seen that in like colonization, right? It was the very, very wealthy European countries that went into East Asia. East Asia, that went into Africa to take over and to globalize their people. And so it started very early on, I think, this system of just.
So when it comes to COVID-19, I will ask this of you. Do you think that there's a grand scheme from entities such as the Bill Gates and whoever else that can profit from from vaccines and things of that nature to even get more wealth?
I don't know if those people actually know what they're doing. I don't know that.
Okay.
But what I do know is that their corporations will benefit from this, and they consciously do make the decision to say yes. I don't know, because I've just never talked to them, if they've consciously made the decision not to say no. So in that sense, like, I still would hold them I wouldn't hold them fully responsible, but I would hold them with a shared responsibility for sure. Because even when I look at now, like, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was driving. I'm like, Instagram, like, your handle name is in English. Like, that's one of, like, the most powerful social media sites right now. And now we've kind of pigeonholed a lot of people and to have this universal language. And we always talked about that. English is going to be the global language. English is going to be the global language. That's why early on, you saw a lot of countries having to teach dual language. America is like the only country that it's not like required to do dual language. But when I go to Korea, you start really early on in like elementary school. And I know this is the same for many other countries. And, you know, I think this is just, and the example of the Instagram is just a small example of how American globalization is working to benefit these major tech companies in the midst of COVID. But we're reliant now, which is very scary. So,
Okay, well, look, for the sake of time, I want to get to this next question. This is a very interesting question. Now, we have three main questions, and this is one of them. We always want to know what's going on with male and female relationships. What do you think about male and female relationships? The state of male female relationships. Are they good or are they not? Or what do you have? What can you tell us about male and female relationships now in this current time?
I feel well, people who identify as male and female.
Now you're going to identify. No, we're talking about on here. We talk about straight heterosexual male and females.
Okay.
We're not going outside of that scope because there's a big arena right now of sexual identities, or people, how they identify. We're talking about regular old heterosexual male and female relationships. I don't want to go no outside of that scope at the moment. Okay.
Okay, I'll stay within the heterosexual relationship, but I do want to note that it influences in today's day and age. The people's one's decision to choose gender now just really hyper dismantles gender constructs.
Okay.
And even though I identify with being heterosexual, because of a lot of the gender fluidity that is happening, I begin to just have a more critical eye of why I do things based on gender. And so it does have impact, but I do have an opinion about just relationships between self-identified men and women. And I feel that, women are very, not to like generalize, but from my experience myself as a woman, I know that I have experienced a lot of moments where I've had to like silence myself or fit into these norms of, well, you are the homekeeper and you should get married at a certain age and you should have this many children and you shouldn't be like pursuing your career. And I feel that, I'm someone who is very passionate and driven. And when I see men who are encouraged to do so, it just level. It just brings the reality of a system that is meant for.
Okay, let me jump in.
Mhm.
So you're saying, well, it seems like you're leading toward patriarchy.
Yeah, patriarchy.
Okay, so now one thing. Okay, this is what I could add to what you're saying. I'm gonna add to this because it's interesting. Okay, now we have we have a system. I'm getting back to the system that advocates patriarchy, and
Yes.
that's the system of white supremacy, white male patriarchy, right? So I can go with that, but see, this is what I also want to get at is that I have made statements before that says that we are all primitive in our scope in just being people. We're primitive people because we have this certain way of dealing with each other, and under the regime of white supremacy right now is dominated by males. But moving forward with understanding and reasoning, and not being a primitive thinker, male and female should be able to collaborate in a manner where people can, a man can't have a baby. So a man has to understand that a woman has a baby. And if we have this understanding of each other and not have these straight up specific roles, we should have roles, but there's some roles that a man can't perform, and there's some roles that a woman can't perform. Through reasoning, through logic, and through humility, we should be able to coexist and be able to be together in a manner where we won't be dropping patriarchy or matriarchy. We should say unityarchy. You know what I mean?
Right.
We got these roles. And I mean, in nature, we have these specific roles. And to step out of those, if a man say, well, look, I want to be a woman, and then okay, you want to be a woman. Now you're going to start having babies? You're going to start. So it's a, well, I got to go back to Neely Fuller. He's saying all of this is confusion.
Mhm.
So when we're talking, I just wanted to add that because I know that I saw where you were going with the patriarchy. Any two males and females should be able to reason and work it out. You work it out enough to have children, so you should be able to work it out enough not to one person club the other person over the head to say that, okay, I'm running this. No, it's we running this. I think when we get to that mentality, because that's why I say we're primitive, because people are not accepting of the unity factor that we need to have. So keep going. I just wanted to drop that in there.
Yeah, no, I like that because even in primitive, like if you're a wolf, you stay within your pack, But if the animals really got together, and I also see that a lot in like gender. Um, yeah, and for me, like my my a lot of like my conclusions about interactions with self-identified men is it has to do with like personal things, like how am I treated at a job where my boss is a man versus a woman? And to be honest, it's been very different. And I like working where, my boss is a woman because I've had more positive interactions. And I've had more, like, and this is not to like, again, generalize everyone. Like, it's not like every male boss that I had, but I'm talking about in the span of when I started working, when I was 15 till now. I first noticed it when I was actually 15 working I had a permit and I was working at this pizza joint, and my boss, who was a man, happened to be Korean as well, was very, very condescending and would not ever treat my boyfriend at the time worked at the same pizza place as me, never treated him like that. He called me stupid. Like, it was so bad. And he would make me clean all the bathrooms and do the cash register. Like, he was basically exploiting my labor. And that was a very negative experience. And I mean, I've had really positive ones, like my one of my program directors at school I adore him, and he is like a father figure to me in many ways. And so I don't create these archetypes when I first meet people, but when I look through my life as objectively as I can, because, you know, I have to have some sort of bias, I would have to say most of my women bosses, even though I may not have personally got along with them, they were more fair.
Okay, can I say this?
Yes.
Can you look at that as a global institution of patriarchy that they kind of lend that observation? And then again, is that sort of a primitive way of being? And it's like through your experience with the male and female bosses, the male bosses probably reflected more of the system that we're in. Could you say that?
Yeah, no doubt. Like, I don't think
Okay.
it's like, you know, we have things like the Napoleon complex, you know, that still rings as true as alpha dog or alpha male.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about, I know in the summer of 2018, you had a supervisor that was a summer school principal, and we're not going to mention any names. How was that male supervisor? Was that male supervisor okay, or how did that person come across?
Yeah, I mean, I was very curious to see what it would feel like for a peer to become my administrator. Not a peer, but, you know, a fellow colleague. But it was I didn't even think of the patriarchal dynamic. Maybe like it crossed my mind subconsciously. But it's the relationship that sticks, you know, and, you know, at the time the supervisor would remind me to do certain things, and I didn't think much of it. I never felt disrespected. And again, like, that just goes to, there have been, you know.
So that wasn't a bad experience for you?
No. Like, I've had very bad experiences. I have subtle experiences too. And then the bad comes out at the end. Like, I've had administrators do very subtle jabs, and I'm like, am I tripping? Like, I don't think so. And here I am being like, no, I think so. No, I don't think so. Spending all this energy trying to figure out if this person is being, like, condescending and, like, trying to overread tones, psychoanalyzing. That takes a lot of energy. And at the end, when I left that school, that administrator told me that I did nothing to prove myself. And, you know, so now when I get those little intuitive feelings of am I not, I just go, no, this person is being condescending. Let's just see if they actually behave out of character. And in that moment, you know, I've experienced much, like, I will call them out. Whereas before, I just wasn't sure. I was like, really, this happened?
Well,
I would never do this to anybody.
That was a learning experience. You know, now that you have, how many years of teaching you have under your belt?
This is my 7th year.
Okay, so now you can kind of see clearer because of the experience, and then you start to see what people are really about. And very interesting. We could talk on and on. I know time is moving, and I still have 2 more questions for you. So this question is basically what we've been talking about. I wanted to ask you, is there a system of white supremacy racism? And I think you already answered that. So
Yes. That's my answer.
okay. And then this is the last question because we're coming up right on about an hour. And you told me that you only had about an hour, and I just appreciate any time I can get with you because as everybody can see or hear, this was a treat for me. And it should be a treat for them because you're a very sharp individual, in my opinion. So the last question is, in your opinion, how can we improve the human condition?
That's an easy one. It's like start with ourselves, definitely. Like I can't stress how much self-care, self-healing is so important, and to know yourself and to really just tune in, whether it be through your body, your mind, or your spirit, just to be thoughtful of who we are and our worth and our value, and from there will come purpose. And through that pure intention, like as pure as we can be, the purpose will be open way to see really what we are to do within the community of humanity. And so, but that's a slippery slope. But I really do like personally advocate for that self-reflection.
Yes. Now, to kind of piggyback on that with you, I know that you could be self-reflected, and you could I call it self-evaluation. There's a conscious self-evaluation, and there's an unconscious self-evaluation, and I can get into that later. But if you consciously self-evaluate, and then the informational base that you draw from, there has to be some type of informational base that you draw from that has to do with quality human behavior. And what I mean by quality human behavior, you have those tenets of consideration, of having constructive interactions and results, and all of that. You got to have some type of that people would call it cultural base, but I think there has to become a non-primitive base. This is just Mr. Roski Mascani speaking. You got to have, because I spoke about primitive type of systematic things that go on. We have to come basically with growth, come from a growth foundation to self-reflect, to draw from, if you know what I mean.
Right. No, and I agree with you. It's important not to just be blind in our self-seeking.
Yes, ma'am. So anything else?
No, but I do appreciate this conversation, and I look forward to also listening to it again to actually hear what we were talking about versus like, just going off.
So this is wonderful. I appreciate your time, and I need to speak with you in a few minutes, so I'm gonna call you again.
Okay.
So I appreciate you, Ms. J. Dub, and looking forward to doing this again with you, because there's more to come. There's more to come. Okay. Take care, and I will speak with you in a few seconds.
All right.
Okay. Wait a minute. Brother Iration, are you still around? I know you were listening.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
do you come on and chime in and talk to Ms. J. Dub right quick and say something?
She's pretty articulate, very intelligent, and I just enjoyed the conversation. You guys did very well. I was here for the entire duration of it. So we're good. So we're fine. Go ahead and
Okay,
proceed,
so
Mr.
you
Lee.
didn't have anything to ask her, right? Quick.
No. I mean, you did a good job, and she answered them well. So I think you covered everything.
Okay, Brother Iration, you had your
Sure.
chance, but you'll get a chance again.
All
Okay,
right,
well,
thank you
I
all.
appreciate both of you, and we'll
All
talk to you
right.
soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Mhm.